we can do proactive things to support our day, to design our day, instead of being taken by the day.
Welcome to Settling's Not an Option. I'm Adam Nebbs, and I'm here with my co-host Amanda Stanhope. This show is for anyone out there who feels like they've settled for an unfulfilling life. Whether you've settled in a relationship, the work that you do, or how you feel about yourself, we're here to tell you that settling's not an option. If you're liking the show, please follow us on Spotify, Amazon Music, or you can subscribe to our YouTube channel. If you have any feedback about the show or want to recommend a topic, you can email us at cheerstonotsettling@gmail.com. And finally, if you feel so inclined, you can donate to us on Coffee, where we are aiming to buy some new audio equipment. So today on the show, we're joined by a wonderful guest by the name of Jason Gant. Jason joins us from San Francisco, where he works with transitional-aged youth, men, and athletes to help them achieve peak mental and physical health. Jason has a bachelor's degree in public health, a master's in both behavioral health and global entrepreneurial management, and is a certified mindfulness teacher. So welcome to the show, Jason.
Yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate you sharing the platform and your stage audience. Excited to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
More than welcome. So we'll jump straight in. The first question is, we're really keen to just find out about your career path. So I think what you're doing is really important, just kind of reading up on some of the work you've done. I think it's very different from, what I'm used to reading about. But can you tell us a little bit about why you chose this career path?
Yeah, certainly. When I was in grad school for behavioral health, I learned about this study called the ACEs study, ACE, and stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences.
Okay.
And it was actually developed at Kaiser Permanente in collaboration with the CDC in the late 90s. And what it looked at what it found is that adverse childhood experiences come in really three categories: abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction.
Yeah.
Abuse, neglect, and household dysfunction. And there's three types of abuse: physical, emotional, and sexual.
Yeah.
For neglect, it's physical and emotional. And then there's household dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
And household dysfunction includes mental illness, a member treated violently, witnessing divorce, substance abuse, witnessing it,
Sure,
and seeing an incarcerated relative. So those are 10 kind of broad themes and categories that make up adverse childhood experiences.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's really my why I do this. So imagine this study was done in the 90s.
Yeah.
And so if we even just add in the pandemic, if we add in burnout and stress, if we continue to add to this list, then if we look at it from a macro perspective, it's really, we all need support.
Oh, yeah.
We all have a down day.
Yep.
We're all, whether it's, we're feeling some tension in our shoulders, to having a down mood, to being in the world and being in reality, which, the household dysfunction is really about connecting with other folks.
Yep.
And how are their emotions, and what's the interplay between those?
Yeah.
So when I think about why I do this, it's because I understand that folks need support. We all need help at some point in our lives. And if we didn't know that before, the pandemic has all taught us that regardless of gender, shape, class, color, whatever, that we are going to have a down day. Yep. And so I do this work to share and to remind folks that we are not human doings. We're human beings.
Okay.
And so we're so used to doing things that first we're humans. And that's a keen message for athletes, because they believe that they are the athlete, and that if they don't perform as an athlete, then they're a failure. Yep. And so it's no. Bobby likes basketball. Bobby is not basketball.
Okay.
Jennifer likes soccer. Jennifer is not soccer.
Yeah.
And so it's the human first. And if we take that into account, we realize that, hey, we all have needs. And when those needs are not met, then we need support. And if we don't have that tribe, that village, as the saying goes, it takes a village to raise a child.
Sure.
If you don't have that village, then what tools and skills, techniques can you rely on to put your best foot forward?
Okay. So that's really what it is. Or I guess maybe how it started for you then was to help people become self-reliant almost. Is that a good way to say it?
Yeah, self-reliant, more self-confident, more autonomous, to empower folks.
Sure, because they didn't have anyone. These people that you're working with didn't necessarily have anyone that they could look to for that support, so they had to find it within themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. They have to find it for themselves. Talking about underprivileged communities, working in developmental communities, folks where or places where folks need support, where the mental side of the support, the well-being side of the support was not a focus or a concentration. It was the sport itself. It was getting the grades at all costs. So just get it done. And really this mentality around the Nikes, just do it. I mean, what does just do it mean? How do you just do it if you don't have support and you're already in a moment of intensity and stress?
Yeah, I love that. There's a specific thing that I really want to hone in on because I think it's so important. You know, whether we're talking about youth or you know, adults today who have just maybe had a difficult upbringing and it's really shaped them. Just kind of honing in on what you said about, you know, you're not what you do. You know, Bobby isn't basketball. He likes basketball. I just wonder, can we talk maybe a bit about like the, you know, this identity thing? Because I can imagine for athletes, you know, if you're brought up in a household or, you know, probably society in general where it's all, you know, you need to play sports, you need to be good at sports. You know, if they do start to struggle with that, they might lose their identity and then that might flow into when they become adults. You know, in what ways can we help youth kind of not identify with a particular game or a particular purpose at that young age, which if it doesn't work out for them will completely crush their identity?
Yeah, great question. And you know, my initial thought to that is just to be supportive. So it's very easy to put them down. You know, we ourselves, you know, negativity is like Teflon. We just attract to it, sticks on us. If we plan something, it doesn't go the way we had planned for or the way we like the outcome, then we attach to it. Even if we got further than we initially thought we would have, we attach to the I didn't complete the outcome or the goal, opposed to, you know what, I just went out there and did it. I was actually anxious and no one knew, but I still rose above that to show up.
Right.
And so I would say giving them that confidence, and it's not a false confidence, it's a present moment confidence of like, what are you actually feeling, noticing about your child, about youth, or about this person's identity and the way they're holding themselves that can just allow them to put their next best step forward, opposed to feel as though they're inadequate because they did win the game, they didn't kick the ball or catch the ball the right way.
Yep.
You showed up, and you showing up, giving your best at that moment in time is the best that you had. And if it wasn't, then there's some teaching moments where we can discuss how do you get over that, whatever was going on. Otherwise, you gave the best that you could at that moment, and let's congratulate that.
Yeah.
And work from that place on up instead of honing in on, well, you didn't do this and didn't do that, because it's very easy to rehearse something that's going to happen in the future or to replay something that's happened in the past. But to be here and now in the present is a skill that allows us to even make a choice to have an outcome that is in our favor.
I love that.
Yeah, and what I'm reflecting on is, well, myself, because I do this to my daughter, Is like, I think too, as the adult, you're expecting the child, whether it's your own child or not, but you're creating a story of what they should be doing based on what you would do or based on your life experience. It's not necessarily their life experience. And so I think that's another piece of it. And what I'm getting from what you're saying is that the adult
Mm-hmm.
or the leader in the situation, because it could be two adults too, but whoever is taking on that leadership role in the situation would have to be like kind of back out of the story that they've created about what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah. Taking off the mask,
Yeah,
taking
okay,
off
is
the
that what
mask
that was
to
about? Yeah, okay,
this is the story I'm telling
okay,
and what's actually going on. What's
yeah.
happening behind this mask? If I
So
take it
that,
off, there's
okay, so
one
that's
thing
what
I
you
show
call
the
taking
world.
off the mask. Got it. Yeah.
Yeah, there's one thing I show the world, and that might be, hey, everything's all good.
Right.
Jason, how are you doing? Yeah, I'm doing good. Meanwhile, I'm stressed out about, work, just had my first child, worried about my family, getting back, making sure everything's okay. So taking off that mask is actually showing what is authentic.
Yeah.
And as we talk about identity, that authenticity comes from like, who are you and are you being you?
Mm-hmm.
And going back to the humanism part, it is okay to be you.
Right.
It is okay, which is very scary nowadays. Social media, Facebook just came out with a report saying that 1 in 3 girls are negatively impacted by Instagram and
Oh
Facebook
yeah.
use.
Oh yeah. I'm surprised
And
it's
they've
not
known
2 and
this
3.
for
Yeah.
years, but they continued the product. And
Yes.
so, as we ask the why, that is my why, because people are hurting, people need support, and there are organizations and people and situations that people are getting taken advantage of, whether they know it or not,
Yeah.
and they need the skills to feel whole again.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
How exactly do you deliver this the service, I guess, that helps them create those skills or gain those skills?
What do you mean? Like, I mean, the way
Well,
I'm hearing the question is like physical or like in
well,
person,
yeah, like what does
virtually?
it look like? So if you're, I mean, are you doing this like on a community wide level? Are you doing this like in an organization level, a school level?
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, across the board, across demographics, across ages. So I'm currently at Kaiser Permanente, which is large on the West Coast, a healthcare institution, healthcare giant. Um, and I created the first youth and teen mindfulness program for the NorCal region.
Okay.
So mostly
Wow.
classes in behavioral health education are for adults. So I created the first child and teen class for ages
Oh,
8
awesome.
through 19.
Okay.
And so that's a one setting that I'm in. But I also work with athletic teams, soccer teams, basketball teams at all levels, from youth teams all the way up to NCAA. And that affords me the opportunity to work across sports, across genders, ages, working with both middle school, high school, and college. So the difference is you have to be keen to, because there's certain language that a third, fourth grader
Yeah.
might not understand. And then there's things that are too amateur, I guess, for the older students.
Sure.
And they're just going through different stressors in a different time in their life.
Yeah.
So as we talk about identity and authenticity, a lot of the material has to coincide with their actual age level.
Mhm.
So I have the breadth to work with, youth, teens, and adults being certified in mindfulness through Search Inside Yourself Leadership Institute, which is the mindfulness platform developed at Google.
Oh,
And so
okay.
that is really for a corporate background, or corporate audience, I should say.
Sure.
And so working with children all the way up to corporate audiences from 8 on up to seniors.
Yeah, but that does answer my question, because that's what I was hearing. It's like there's all these different groups of people that you're noticing need the help or need the support. And so I'm like, well, how do you get to all those different groups of people? So yes, that definitely. Yeah.
So the different modes are, meeting folks online during this pandemic, during quarantine. So virtual is definitely what I've been leaning on right now, both for all, corporate workshops as well as athletic ones.
Sure.
As things begin to open up here in San Francisco, I'll be able to be more in person. But before the pandemic, yes, I was in person, going to athletic practices, meeting with teams after their practice. As one team's on the court, I'd meet with another team off court. Sure. So then they're really getting that on court, off court coaching. So it's not just all about physical health, but we are then getting into the mental health and the well-being and how to tap into our best selves through the game of sport. But then how do we use those same skills that we learn in sport off the court? And so it's really like almost a life skills class.
Sure.
And when I ask children and even adults about what their favorite classes, even I guess I'll go with both of you. What were your favorite classes growing up in like elementary, middle school?
Oh gosh.
Oh, that's a tricky question.
I don't know if I like to feel them that well. Honestly, for me, it depended on the teacher. It wasn't so much the class, because there was no subject I was that interested in, so it would be completely dependent on the teacher.
Of course. Okay.
Yeah. I definitely think it's the environment you're in, because I remember I was in one high school which was not conducive to learning at all. But then I moved to another school and it just changed, like I went from learning nothing to opening my world up to where I am now. So, yeah.
Yeah. No, well, I mean, of course, I'm on a well-being podcast, so I should have expected that answer. Yeah. But mostly folks usually give me an answer when I ask, and that answer is usually one that they feel forced to give because they're being asked the question. So to your point, they don't actually like the subject, but they're answering the question.
Yeah.
And then I follow up with, have you had a class where you were able to learn about yourself? And then you hear, your biology, the chemistry, I made up cells and all that.
Right.
But it's like, what happens when something doesn't go your way? What happens when you're stressed out? Have you learned to understand yourself in that way?
Yeah.
And every time it's no, it's because we do not teach it, and it's not in our education system. So without, this is just something that if I know about adverse childhood experiences, and that's a childhood experience,
right,
and we're not acknowledging it in our education system, then where are folks learning this? And it's unfortunately only when crisis or something traumatic happens that lends us down a path of maybe I should try things differently. But I grew up doing things proactively. My parents had me going to summer school to prepare for the upcoming grade that I was going to be in.
Okay.
And then funny enough, as I reflect, during this conversation, I ended up being a public health major in college, which again is about prevention.
Right.
So I guess preventative measures is something that's on my mind. And so instead of waiting until that intensity comes, freaking out, and then reacting, we can do proactive things to support our day, to design our day, instead of being taken by the day.
Yeah.
A lot. I like that. Yeah. I really like what, how your work's really focused on, getting to kids in those formative years, because, and especially around the mindfulness piece, trying to teach that. One thing I'm reflecting on, and I've thought about it a lot just now that I've kind of taken a step out of the, a really busy working life. And now I've got probably 10% of the busyness that I used to have, but it's really given me time to pause and observe things around me. And so I've got a 5-year-old, and I just notice how important it is to be mindful in every single conversation that you have with your child, which isn't always easy because, you know, my child loves to chat. She's just like me. She's chatting nonstop. So sometimes you're like, oh, I need a break. But it's just some of the conversations, key conversations, I think, that parents need to be aware of is when your kid hops in the car after school and they will talk about their day. And I just think there would be missed opportunities there, which I totally can have compassion for the parents who would miss them because they come home from a hard day at work and they're tired. But I just think those conversations are so critical. So one example I can think of with my daughter is they just had book week and her best friend dressed up like a scientist. And so now she's telling me, I want to be a scientist because my best friend dressed like a scientist. Now you could just let that go. But I'm like, this could really shape her perspective on what she wants to do later. You know, so it was a good dialogue to say, look, scientists are awesome. They're the ones that are helping us right now with the pandemic, but make sure that you want to be a scientist, you know, that you're not doing it just because your friend looks cool in a science outfit, you know, like just having those conversations because it's going in somewhere and it'll come out, you know, in you know, that adolescence or when they become adults. So I just think we need to be super mindful, which is why I really like the fact that you're like, we need to pause and take that time to, you know, to talk to the kids. So that might be a good segue to kind of into a little anecdote that I saw you wrote online about a camp that you're on with a bunch of neurodivergent kids and how they were kind of acting out in a certain way. And because of your mindfulness, you were able to really be in the moment and help shape that situation. Would you be able to tell us a little bit more about that? Because I think that's a beautiful story.
Yeah, certainly. So I was leading a social emotional camp for neurodivergent youth, meaning some of the students, some of the campers were on the spectrum of autism. Mm-hmm. And this was my first time working with this population, but I was really excited because as I am right now, I was outdoors.
Oh, yeah.
And so usually teaching mindfulness and mental skills indoors, this was, you know, it was almost like a no rules situation for me. It's like, wait, we can yell. Usually you have to be quiet in school settings and whatnot. Here we can pick up dirt, play with the, you know, climb the trees and, you know, just have a good time, be outdoors. Kids can be kids. And that's what they started doing. They started picking up sticks, running around, playing tag, and noticed that there were a couple boys that picked up the sticks and started making gun sounds as if they were shooting.
Sure.
And, you know, growing up in playing sports, hearing about toxic masculinity, you hear about the locker room talk, and just being from an underprivileged community in Hunters Point, Bayview, San Francisco, just wasn't something that I wanted to have them to learn or get comfortable with.
Right.
And so, you know, I saw it and then had the thought, all right, how can I stop this without ruining their fun? Okay. And so my first thought was just to physically get in between them. And so I physically got in between them as, you know, they're kind of running, trying to chase each other, stopped them and just, you know, said, hey, what are you guys doing? They're, you know, saying we're playing guns and, you know, I said, well, what are you guys shooting at? And of course they said bullets. And I was like, well, hey, aren't we here to make friends? You know, we don't want to hurt our friends. And they were like, okay, yeah, I guess. And I was like, well, what if we continue playing the game, but instead of shooting the bullets, it's love potion? And they're like, oh, awesome. And they dropped their sticks and, you know, without my instruction, they just dropped their sticks and ran and gave each other a hug. And then returned as if nothing happened. They picked up the sticks and started shooting love potion. And so next thing you know, they're like, love potion, and, you know, screaming around. And now they're shooting love potion at their friends opposed to trying to hurt their friends. Yeah. Now they were able to still have the same amount of fun. They were able to still remain, I guess, quote unquote, shooting each other. But now just the perspective and the lens changed And that's really what mindfulness is about, changing our lens and perspective. The materials were the same. The environment was the same. They're still playing with each other. I didn't have to break them up, but their lens and their perspective changed on how they were moving forward with the game. And that was just the simple adjustment of bullets versus love potion.
Right.
Now, there weren't any real bullets flying. There's no real love potion flying, obviously, but the notion behind it is what allowed it to thrive and allowed them to actually use it throughout the camp. So the next 3 weeks, I'm hearing love potion now. And so that was something that now I was like, oh, I had to come up with it in the moment, but now it's like, all right, that worked. We can try that next time.
Right.
And that worked because I was able to be in the present moment. It was a mindful skill from saying, hey, I'm not trying to ruin the fun here. I'm not trying to, you guys are not in trouble.
Yeah.
But I do need to redirect the attention that is going into this game. And that attention is going towards the bullets, and that can hurt when we are intentionally trying to make friends here, intentionally trying to make folks feel comfortable, and intentionally wanting you to have fun.
Yeah.
So it was just a redirect from that present moment awareness, non-judgmentally, leading with curiosity, which is really how I define mindfulness. I define mindfulness with two crucial themes: awareness and attitude. Awareness of mind and body. So awareness of what we're doing. Are we connected? And then awareness of attitude of curiosity and kindness. Curiosity meaning I'm interested in what's happening in my environment. I'm interested in happening what's going on with me. I'm not really sure, but I'm interested.
Yeah.
Which kind of takes away some of that judgment and that assumption, which can lead us down a wrong path.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We try to take control. I think we too often try to take control of our own emotional state and our other people's emotional state or state of mind, instead of just being curious about it. Yeah.
And to that point,
yeah.
Yeah, and to that point, there's a saying that intention is not impact. And so just hearing you speak, as we're taking in different inputs, if one adult is not taking care of themselves and the other isn't, that intention that I had to be of service may come off as impact negatively to the other person.
Okay.
And if we're both not taking care of each other or ourselves, we're not connected mind, body,
okay,
then that can be misconstrued, and then that can turn into violence.
Okay. All right, I'm digesting this. This is a big thought here. So
we like these.
Yeah, I know. No, it makes perfect sense though. Yeah, and
so it is the slowing down.
Yeah, and the intention behind it, setting that intention.
Yeah.
So how do you go about setting an intention? Like, are you setting an intention at the beginning of the day that kind of flows with you all day? Or are you setting intentions like all throughout the day?
Yeah, I would say it's setting intentions all throughout the day. So you can start with that initial, but again, the mindfulness is the present moment awareness. Sure. So if that intention needs to change based on the actual circumstances, then I would say we might need to adapt and update rather than trying to hold steady on that, 9 a.m. intention that clearly is not going to happen right now.
Right.
And just to go to Adam's point here, I would say that, your story, your share, Adam, around picking up your daughter and the NASA story or the scientists. An example is if you just brush that off, like that is the parenting.
Sure.
Yeah.
Right. A lot of why I'm able to do the work that I'm doing is because with athletic teams is because the quote unquote parent or coach they've said it all. It's not like I'm coming with the, I'm just saying something that's complements what they're already coaching. So it's kind of like the parent that sends their kid to different camps and whatnot and says, they hear it from me all the time. I just need to have them hear it from someone else that they respect. So getting back to that point, Adam, if our kids are off going to school, like I said, I just had my first child, he's now 6 weeks.
Oh, wow.
So
congratulations. Wow.
Yeah, thank you.
Really?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
If I send my child off to school and I don't catch those moments or have those moments with him, then I'm effectively allowing society to raise my child.
Right. Yeah, that's
and so the moment is the present moment and showing up each of those moments, because when we string along those moments, that becomes our life.
Okay.
And mindfulness is moment to moment awareness. So I really appreciate you taking the time to hear, you said that she likes to talk and communicate, which is great. My first thought was like a lot of kids, I feel like, say nothing happened at school.
Yeah.
So you're in that great stage where they like to talk and you were present for it. But that's what I'm saying. That's what I mean by society is raising our kids, because if you don't catch that and say, hey, do you actually want to be a scientist? Then she might get, taken by the cool look and go down a path when you could have been the parent and were the parent to say, hey, I appreciate you speaking up. I support you in what you want to do. I also want to make sure that you want to do it, not your friend wants to do it. Yeah. And that's the parenting, which is the moment, which we can let it pass us by if we like. But each moment is a moment.
Right.
And to your story about the love potion as well, I think it is very much commonplace now to kind of walk past behaviors. But I just keep thinking of that quote. I can't remember who it's from, but the behaviors you walk past are the behaviors you accept. And I think it's easier sometimes because, again, even at that camp, first time doing it, is this going to go down well? You don't know, you haven't tried it before. But it's like, what is the consequences of your inaction? And just saying, okay, enjoy running around and pretending to shoot each other with bullets. It's like you're crafting somebody, you're crafting a small person's life, really. And just by changing the narrative, you've completely influenced, their experience at that camp. And I just think that's a really important thing. I'm not saying it's easy but I just think, when you consider what you just said, allowing society to raise our children, that's a scary thought. I think that's what we've got to think about when we're in the car and we're tired or whatever it is. Do I really want society to shape how my child's going to be? Like, look at society. It's not a healthy place for the most part. So we have to step up and be mindful. So, I think when you consider those stakes, you're like, okay, I've got nothing else to do but be mindful in that moment.
Yeah. And kind of what I shared, big key life moments, traumas or triggers are usually what bring people to mindfulness. It's not the I was just having a great day and heard about mindfulness and I thought I would just, stop and smell the roses today.
Right.
Usually when things are good, it's good. So why do I need to change this flow? When in fact, it is a perpetual moment by moment practice and awareness that doesn't ever truly stop until we turn it off. So an example I like to share is, when we're crossing the street, we all look both ways, no matter where you are in the world, no matter what you look like, class, you look both ways to make sure that you don't end your life because you understand each moment matters. So I'm not just going to walk into the street. And so we actually do a practice, which is a mindfulness practice, which we see on every single block, which is stop, S-T-O-P. And we do it when we're driving. We do it when we're a pedestrian. We need to stop and wait for the light so that we can cross the street safely. And so stop stands for stop, S-T-O-P. The T is take a breath. O is for observe. And P is to peacefully proceed. which
Yeah.
is the steps that we do each time we're doing anything that matters. It's not just when we're driving or crossing the street. Whenever we do something that matters, we stop and we think about it and we say, this is how I'm going to move forward.
Yeah.
We stop, take a breath, observe our surroundings, and peacefully proceed. And so to that point, I say we are all mindful. What we're trying to do is gain more and enhance more moments within our life to show up the way we show up when we're crossing the street.
Yeah, that's a perfect visualization,
Yeah.
I think. Yeah, because that makes it really easy to visualize and relate to, because everybody can relate to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
And I'm really curious as well, like, because I know you're a certified mindfulness teacher, so maybe the bar's quite high, but what is your mindfulness practice day to day to stay mindful in a world that's constantly trying to uncouple your mindfulness, I guess?
Yeah. Really to design my own day, to design my mindful day. And so, I finished a program in global entrepreneurial management, got to study in Taiwan and Barcelona, finished the degree here in San Francisco. And, the big takeaway for me is this concept of design thinking.
Okay.
And design thinking really starts with an empathetic lens, thinking about your customer. So design thinking is a process by which to make a product.
Oh, okay.
And it starts with empathy, and empathy because you want to think about your customer. Who is this product for?
Yeah.
And so as we're thinking about entrepreneurship and creating products and services, I really connected to design thinking and this process of beginning with empathy, which truly is like a mindfulness process, And so, what was the question again?
Yeah, no, it was what your mindfulness practice is day to day.
Yes, thank you. So that's where I got off track. So the design thinking process is something that was something that really stuck with me. And so I bring that into this question of what do I do for my practice? It's really about designing my day. Yeah. And so opposed to waking up and looking at the calendar and feeling like I have all this to-do list, it's like I'm designing my day. So I'm waking up thinking about, how am I going to shift between energies?
Okay.
And so I like to think about doing some movement to begin the day, settling down towards the middle or, in the middle of my day somewhere, and then getting back into a slower, more restorative movement at the end of the day. So for me, that may look like going on a walk in the morning, walking my dog, playing some music to kind of get energized and do a little dancing.
Yeah.
To midday, getting into some stillness. So that could be a meditation. I could be doing some mindfulness. And then at the end of the day, moving again, but in a restorative way. So doing like some restorative yoga, therapeutic yoga, holding postures longer in a calming, easeful way.
Okay.
And so I really enjoy designing my day because I feel like I have more autonomy within it, opposed to feeling like I'm just getting pulled and have to do certain things. Mm-hmm. It's like, no, I've designed a day where I'm excited for what's upcoming. And not only that, I have designed it in a way that takes into consideration my energies and will pick me up, allow me to relax, and then pick me up. And so it allows me to move more fluidly through my day, opposed to feeling like I'm just reacting to it. So I have a mindful community that I join every morning, 8:45 to 9:30 for a mindful sit. I'll either do that with or after my morning walk or little dance.
Sure.
And then have my mindful breathing that I may do in the middle of the day, just 5 mindful breaths, actually feeling the full cycle of the breath, feeling my feet on the floor. I like to say your right foot is here and your left foot is now. And when you're standing in the here and now, you're in the present moment.
Yeah.
And we can't take our feet into the past. We can't take them into the future.
Good point. Good
so
point.
we can only be where our feet are, which is the
Right.
present.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's
I
another
need to sit with that one for a minute.
I know.
That's really good.
Well, it's so important because that's what helps people connect to it and remember it is those little visualizations. Because we all have a million things going through our mind, and those visualizations really help to bring us back to the mindful moment. So
Yeah. And I think that's a
Yeah.
really simple kind of recipe for anyone looking to be mindful. Just saying, design your own day, because people like to feel they're in control. So, you can design your own day however you want. It doesn't have to be how you do it with yoga and dancing and things like that. They can do it however they want. Just don't feel like you're reacting to the day. So I think that's a really useful, practical tip. So thank you.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's really based in, again, this curiosity and this mindfulness of present moment. So as you said, it doesn't have to be around dancing and yoga and finding your center and breathing. It can be, going on a roller skate, it could be stopping by and having, your favorite ice cream that you haven't had in a while. I had a boss that said, at least once a week, do something nice for yourself. So even if that is, buying this pen, you just walked down a store and saw a stationery store and saw a pen that you liked. It's like, could be even just getting that pen could be the big win of the week. This is something I chose. I didn't react to it. I didn't get this because I was feeling bad. So I needed to, shop to feel better. Like, I was present moment. I enjoyed it. I took advantage of it. And this is my nice moment.
Right.
So that's something, again, how she was kind of designing her day. And, even I've heard of folks that have sent flowers to themselves. They'll give a flower company their credit card. Just send me flowers once a month randomly.
Okay.
So they know it's them, but the randomness of it, the curiosity of it is what makes it fun. It's like, I know I'm sending it to me, but I don't know when it's coming. And sometime this month, a nice little bouquet is going to show up. Who wouldn't like that?
Yeah.
So to your point, the mindfulness, the curiosity is the present moment, which allows us to understand what is needed now. And that is what allows us to feel like we're thriving, because we have some autonomy, we're choosing, and we can see the impact outcome to then make a decision on, are we going to do that again, or are we going to choose a different direction?
Right.
Yeah, I love it.
Well,
there's like
getting to the end of our time here, so
yeah, I was about to say that. I was like, I feel like that's a really good.
I feel like we could sit here and talk about this all day, but we want to be mindful. We want to be mindful. There we go. Of Jason's time too, and not monopolize it. So, is there anything else you could think of, Jason, that you wanted? Any other points you wanted to get across, or anything before we wrap it up here?
I guess just the one word that's coming to mind right now as we talk about designing, as we talk about stepping out of autopilot, stepping into aware, is really this term proactive.
Okay.
Proactive. I touched on, being a public health major and being preventative.
Right.
And so I think another way of saying that is be proactive about our mental health, be proactive about our health in general.
Yeah.
We already know that we're going to be slowed down by a bum ankle, broken leg, sore shoulder, bad back.
Yeah.
But proactively think about your mental well-being and just your behavioral health, which is the integration of your mental and physical health.
Yeah.
And I guess the takeaway I would want to, a takeaway point or message I want to leave is we always talk about balance, having balance, work-life balance.
Right.
How about behavioral health balance? And to that point, meaning as I just said, we know when we're physically hurt and think that we need to seek support and extra help.
Mm-hmm.
And that, you know what, I can't just do this alone. I need a doctor to prescribe or to check me out.
Yeah.
And rather to proactively advocate for themselves to be in a place of well-being.
Okay.
And that is to overweight mental health and well-being. Because we're already cognizant of physical health.
Yeah.
So to find balance would mean that we need to overbalance mental health and well-being.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
So this idea of balance is, I want to say, we need the new idea is lopsidedness. We need to become more lopsided, because when we think I'm balanced,
yeah,
if there's any negativity whatsoever, if there's negative and positive, if there's any negativity, like, we don't want to be walking around with that. So we should lopside to things that can help us lessen the negativity.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so I just want to lead with this lopsided notion. Let's get lopsided.
I like that.
Let's forget the balance.
I like that.
Yeah.
Because then when
And
the
with
negative
that
comes along, it's going to balance you out.
Exactly. I mean,
So
the
you're gonna
pandemic
get
is here.
balanced out one
We're
way or
going
another,
2 years
so,
now,
yeah.
almost.
Yeah.
So life will balance it out for you. Let's get lopsided.
I like that.
And let's do that with proactive perspective.
Yes, I think that's perfect. And for the show, get lopsided.
I've never heard of get lopsided, but I tell you what, it makes complete sense. Because why are we in balance and allowing? Because negativity will spill over, and all of a sudden, that's how you're seeing the world. So, very good advice, Jason. There's lots of really good tidbits, I think, for us to digest. I'm going to have to go back and re-listen to some of these things myself. Definitely. But some wonderful advice for any of our listeners. And I'm just wondering, is there any particular places where people can connect with you, websites, social media that you use more often than others?
Yeah, just mostly on Instagram, at My Village Tribe, Instagram, Twitter, LinkedIn as well, My Village Tribe.
Okay, we'll get that in the description for the show so people can find it easily. So
yeah, definitely.
Right.
Thank you so much,
Jason. I'll throw to Amanda for their formal.
I'll do our little formal wrap up here quickly. So if you made it this far and you're listening or watching, we really appreciate it, and we hope that you gained something. And well, we're sure you had to have gained something that's going to help you not settle in your life anymore. Again, you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, Amazon Music. You can email us at cheerstoNotSettling@gmail.com. Get a hold of us on LinkedIn. If you want to help support the show, hop on over to Coffee. There'll be a link in the description where you can donate as little as $1 to help us keep this thing going. And until next time, we will just say thank you to Jason and cheers to
Thanks, Jason. Cheers to not settling. Bye.
Take care.
Thank you so much.